IELTS Reading Lesson 6, Multiple Choice Questions. For multiple choice questions, we can use the basic exam techniques that I described in detail in Reading Lesson 2 here on this video course. But here are those techniques again quickly. Number 1, don't read the full passage first. Just read the title to get an idea of what the topic is, and then go straight to the first question. Underline keywords in the question, then search for those words in the passage, underline them, read that part of the passage carefully, and try to get the answer. 3 more things to remember. Read at normal speed. Don't skim or scan unless you're looking for a name or a number. And miss any difficult questions, and very importantly, try to get to the end of the test. If you don't finish the full test, you might be missing some easy questions at the end. So miss difficult ones that you're stuck on, anything that you're wasting a lot of time on. Get to the end and then return to the questions that you missed if you have time. 2 things that I highlighted in the lesson 2 when I spoke about this in detail. Points 4 and 5. This is what I call the keyword technique. This is really the key to getting the answers. These are the techniques then that we'll use in this lesson for multiple choice questions. 2 more things quickly. Multiple choice questions can be difficult. Why? Well, they can be difficult because there's a lot to read and the choices can be similar or confusing. There's a lot of keywords to underline, different choices. You might find the information in all of the choices, which makes it confusing. You have to be careful about your decision. One more thing that is good, multiple choice questions, you can normally find the answers in order in the passage. Almost always the answers go in order. Right, let's look at today's example test. Print the worksheet if you haven't done so already and try the test yourself or work through it with me as I go through the answers step by step in the rest of this lesson. The first thing that we do, because we're not reading the whole passage, we just look at the title of the passage. In this case, the title is The Brain Drain. I'm sure you know what the word brain means. You might not know this phrase, the brain drain. It doesn't matter because the text will explain it to you. So there's the title. What do we do next? Well, we go straight to the first question. Question 1. And it's a multiple choice question with 4 choices, A, B, C and D. And as we read through this question, we're going to underline keywords both in the question part at the top that I've put in green and also keywords in all 4 choices. Here we go. People first used the term brain drain. First used brain drain. Then A, during the Second World War. B, when Albert Einstein decided to settle in the USA. C, to refer to the emigration of skilled Europeans after the Second World War. And D, to describe immigration in North America. Already you should see some interesting things in those choices. For example, choice A has the word during the Second World War, but C has after the Second World War. So that should be an easy difference to make or difference to notice, during and after. There are some words that you could quite easily scan for, Second World War, Albert Einstein, USA. However, I think the main thing that you should be doing is searching for the question, not the choices. So we're going to read the passage from the beginning, and first we're going to focus on this question. And the keywords first used the term brain drain. When did people first use this phrase? And then we've got the choices to look at. So I wouldn't scan for those easy words in the choices. I would look, reading at normal speed, look for the question statement first. So here we go. We start from the beginning of the passage, the brain drain. Human capital flight, sometimes called brain drain, refers to the emigration of intelligent, well-educated individuals to another country for better pay or conditions, causing the home country to lose those skilled people or brains. That explains to you what brain drain means. We've got the keyword from the question, brain drain, but we haven't read yet anything about when people first used the term. There's nothing there about first using this phrase brain drain. So we need to continue reading on to the second paragraph of the passage. We go on to the second paragraph. The term brain drain was coined. Now I'm going to highlight that. Was coined means first used. If you know that word coined, this is easy. If you didn't know that word, it's a bit tricky. Anyway, was coined means was first used. The phrase was invented by the Royal Society in the 1950s to describe the emigration of scientists and technologists to North America from post-war Europe. Albert Einstein was an earlier and perhaps the most famous example of this form of emigration. So, if you remember the question, which we'll check in a moment, you might see here that there are several keywords from the different choices. I'm going to highlight them now. We've got 1950s because we're looking for when this term was first used. Emigration of scientists and technologists to North America from post-war Europe. And we've also got Albert Einstein, and he was given as an earlier example. So, if he was an earlier example, well, that's not the correct answer then, because he was an example of this brain drain before the term was used. Anyway, looking at those keywords, let's go back to the question and the choices. So, we found people first used the term brain drain. The phrase was coined, or the term was coined, invented. And then looking at the choices, A, during the Second World War, well, it said 1950s post-war. Post-war means after the war, so A is wrong. B, when Albert Einstein decided to settle in the USA, well, it said Einstein was an earlier example of the brain drain before the term was used, so that's wrong. Then C, to refer to the emigration of skilled Europeans after the Second World War. Well, we had post-war, that's after the war, and scientists and technologists from Europe was the skilled Europeans. So C looks like it's the right answer. Let's quickly check D, to describe immigration in North America. Well, that's too general, so that's not the answer. Definitely the answer is C. Let's look at the vocabulary that question was testing or focusing on. We had coined, first used. We say to coin a phrase or to coin a term when a term, an expression or phrase is first invented, first created. And also it was very important that you knew the words post-war, meaning after the war. If you didn't know those bits of vocabulary, it would be difficult to get the answer. And this is why I say IELTS reading is a vocabulary test. Now we can move on to question 2 and do it in the same way. Here's the question. Brain drain migration is thought to be the result of. So what is it the result of? A, social and environmental factors in developing countries. B, the problems people face in source countries and the allure of a better life. C, families living in different parts of the world. And D, workers becoming more ambitious. When we go to the passage, we can just continue reading after answer 1, the answer to question 1 that we found. And remember, the first part to look for is the part at the top in green, the question part, not the choices yet. So the main thing we're looking for is, what is this brain drain the result of? Let's see if we can find that. Paragraph 3 in the passage is where we're continuing from. Here it is. As with other human migration, the social environment is considered to be a key reason for this population shift. Now, key reason for this population shift. The population shift is the brain drain. It's a type of migration. And the key reason means the same as the result of. So what's the reason for this brain drain? what is it the result of? So we're going to find the answer here. Let's keep reading. In source countries, lack of opportunities, political instability or oppression, economic depression and health risks contribute to brain drain. Host countries, on the other hand, may offer employment opportunities, political stability and freedom, a developed economy and better living conditions. At the individual level, family influences, relatives living overseas, for example, as well as personal preferences, career ambitions, and other motivating factors can be considered. Now, this is a good example of why multiple choice questions can be confusing. We've got keywords in this paragraph that look very similar to words in all four of the choices in our question. If I highlight the keywords that I can see here, social environment, source countries, better living conditions, family influences, and ambitions, those words look like words in all four of our choices, so we need to analyse carefully to see which one is correct. Back to the question then. Brain drain migration is thought to be the result of. We found a whole paragraph about the reasons for the brain drain. Then, if you put answer A, social and environmental factors in developing countries, maybe you chose that one because of the words the social environment. However, this is wrong. The social environment doesn't mean the same thing as social and environmental. The social environment is the social factor only, the social situation, whereas social and environmental are two separate factors. That's a trick there. Also, we didn't see anything about developing countries. We saw source countries, but they might not necessarily be developing countries. So A is wrong. B, the problems people face in source countries and the allure of a better life. Well, we definitely saw the word source countries, and we did see a list of problems that people have. It said things like lack of opportunities, there was political, health, so there were problems mentioned in source countries, and the allure of a better life means the attraction of a better life. And it did say that other countries offer better living conditions. So B looks like it should be the answer. We're going to choose B, but quickly we'll check C and D. Answer C, families living in different parts of the world. Well, that is mentioned, family members living overseas. And answer D, workers becoming more ambitious. Ambition is mentioned, but those two answers for me are not as good as answer B. Remember, we have to choose the best one. Definitely B was given as the key reason, but C and D, it just said they can be considered as individual reasons, personal reasons. I don't think they're the main reasons given for the brain drain in general. B is the best answer of those four. Let's check the vocabulary from that question. We had the allure, which is the attraction. Source countries are the countries that people are leaving when they migrate, and host countries are the countries where the migrants are going to. Now we can move on to question 3. Here's the question, and let's underline some keywords as usual. When people emigrate to work abroad, A, they may help their families by sending money home. B, they usually return home to visit family members. C, they benefit from better education systems in the destination countries. D, their home countries receive money for higher education. Going to read the passage now, continue reading after answer 2. Here's paragraph 4 in the passage. In spite of its negative connotation, brain drain migration can be seen in a positive light. There is obviously a benefit to the migrating individuals in terms of career progression, quality of life, and earning power. These professionals often send remittances home to their family members, and they may at some point return to their home countries with enhanced knowledge and skills. The home country may also experience an increase in demand for higher level education as people see the opportunities for educated workers overseas. Let's underline some keywords in there that look like words we've got in our question and choices. Well, migrating individuals. This was what the question was about. What do they do? These professionals often. So this is going to tell us what they do. Send remittances home to family members. Something was mentioned about sending to family members. Also, may at some point return. Returning was mentioned in one of the choices. And demand for higher level education was also mentioned in there. Let's go back to the question then. When people emigrate to work abroad, we saw these professionals often. So when these migrants go abroad, what do? They often, now let's get the right answer from the choices. They may help their families by sending money home. Well, send remittances. If you know that word, this is easy. Remittances are payments that they're sending. So that means exactly the same thing as sending money home, and it did say to family members. So you should already be able to see that A is the correct answer. But as usual, let's always check the other choices just in case. B, they usually return home to visit family members. Well, it doesn't say that they usually do that. It says they may return with knowledge and skills, not necessarily to visit family. C, they may benefit from better education systems. Well, it mentions knowledge and skills again that they'll get, but it doesn't actually say that their education systems are better in the destination countries. And D, their home countries receive money for higher education. Higher education was mentioned, but it said the demand for higher education could increase, not about receiving money for higher education. A is definitely the right choice. If you knew the word remittances, this is easy. So the vocabulary from that, of course, is just this one key word. A remittance is money sent as payment or as a gift. So these people who've emigrated are sending money home to their families. And this question was clearly testing your knowledge of that word, if you knew that word or not. Moving on anyway to question 4, let's do the same thing. Underline some keywords. To curb the negative effects of a brain drain. To curb means to reduce or to stop. So how do we stop the negative effects? A, most countries promote innovation. B, all governments have policies to stop skilled workers leaving. C, Indian migrants are expected to send financial contributions home. And D, schemes have been implemented in some countries to bring migrants home. For this one, I'm going to give you the answer first, and then we'll look at why. The answer is D. Let's look at why that's the correct answer. Here are the words that were mentioned. Instead of schemes, there was the word initiatives. Instead of implemented, we saw established. In some countries, some governments. And to bring migrants home, assist professionals to return to their home countries. So we've got very clear keywords showing you why this is the correct answer. Let's quickly check why the others are wrong. A, most countries promote innovation. No, it says the destination countries, innovation is promoted there, the countries that people are moving to, but it doesn't say most countries in the world, it's just the destination countries. B, all governments have policies to stop skilled workers leaving. No, it said just some governments do. And C, Indian migrants are expected to send financial contributions home. It doesn't say they send any money home, it just says they are expected to eventually contribute to the country. So one day they will give something back, maybe when they return home to work. So D was definitely the right answer there, and the vocabulary that we had from that was initiatives, meaning schemes, established, meaning implemented, and some countries the same in this case as some governments. That's the exercise finished. Let's just review very quickly with some keyword tables. Here's the keyword table for question 1. When you're practicing and preparing at home, it's a good idea to make these tables to keep lists of useful vocabulary. So we have keywords in the questions and similar words in the passage. If you remember question 1, we had people first used the term was coined to refer to describe skilled Europeans, scientists and technologists from Europe, after the Second World War, in the 1950s, post-war. Question 2. Brain drain the result of something, contribute to the brain drain. Problems people face, lack of opportunities, political instability, etc. Allure of a better life, offer better living conditions. Number 3. When people emigrate, migrating individuals, help families by sending money home, send remittances home to family. And question 4. To curb negative effects of brain drain, to retain skilled workers. So not losing skilled workers is reducing the negative effects. Schemes have been implemented, initiatives have been established. In some countries, some governments have, to bring migrants home, assist professionals to return to their home countries. And that's the end of this lesson about multiple choice questions. Remember, if there's anything that you're not sure about, you can watch the video again or reread the worksheet. In the next lesson, we'll look at matching names questions, where you have to match from a list of names with certain information from the passage.